Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Leonora Rhodes, a physician turned brain health expert and life coach, and I help people and businesses up-level their brains and their lives. Today, I'd love to talk to you about the neuroscience of planning, how your brain resists organizing and how you can fix it. We're going to talk about how executive function and brain chemistry shape your ability to plan, focus, and stay organized. And you will learn why relying on willpower often fails and how personalized cognitive scaffolding, that is thinking scaffolding, creates lasting productivity change for every brain type. So the neuroscience of getting shit done. Pardon my French, but I I shouldn't apologize for swearing. So planning and organizing are very interesting. They are not single acts of discipline, but they are complex, high-level cognitive operations managed by the brain's executive function network, which is in the front part of your brain in the prefrontal cortex. They are wired primarily into this command center at the front of your brain that helps orchestrate things like your working memory, impulse control, sequencing, sustained attention, that turns abstract goals into tangible results. You may have heard of executive function. This is all part of the executive function system. And whether you're navigating ADHD or you have some other form of neurodivergency like autism spectrum or dyslexia, or maybe you're even simply just feeling overloaded by modern life, sustainable focus doesn't come from sheer willpower. Instead, it depends on designing structural thinking strategies and environments, systems, habits that support your brain's natural ways of working. When planning and organization fall apart, it is rarely a matter of low intelligence or a flaw in character. In fact, I've worked with some absolutely brilliant people with high IQs who are disaster areas when it comes to planning and organizing. And I may even raise my hand saying that, it's something I really struggle with myself. Now, executive dysfunction, dysfunction of this executive function skill set is determined by a complex neurobiology. It isn't a simple thing. And it is driven by structural variations in the brain, by neural circuitry connectivity, and by a delicate balance of neurotransmitters, which include two that you may have heard of, dopamine and norepinephrine. And now, because this is very complex, it varies widely from person to person. And there is no universal blueprint for why you might be struggling with these. And there is no universal blueprint for staying organized. I often tell my clients, you have to become a detective and a scientist. The detective looks for clues. What works? What doesn't? What prevents you from taking action? The scientist is open and curious and experiments. They read articles, they watch videos like this, they try new strategies. And if something works, they adopt it. And if it doesn't, they just try another strategy until they find one that works for them. Now, what about ADHD and other conditions? I am a coach who works a lot with people with ADHD and other neurodiversity. And in people with ADHD, planning and organizing struggles are extremely common. And they are magnified not only by what we've already talked about, but by time blindness, which is a temporal processing dysfunction and interest-driven neural circuitry. So you've got a couple of things going on in the brain that are making it hard to plan and organize. The ADHD brain operates with two distinct time states, now and not now. And because the neural clock responsible for interval timing is altered, estimating how long a step of the process might take is very challenging. Time seems distorted, and this can lead to people chronically underestimating deadlines, packing impossible work volumes into narrow windows of time. My son calls this time optimism, and freezing, because the sequence of what needs to get done just appears massive, and they see an undifferentiated block of time rather than an orderly timeline, which might feel more manageable. In addition to that, the ADHD nervous system works on novelty, urgency, challenge, and interest rather than objective importance. I was working with a client recently, and she has a new member of her team who has ADHD. And she said to me, why can he not just do the thing that is most important that I've told him must be done first? And I explained this to her. His brain doesn't work like yours, and he needs novelty, urgency, and challenge and interest in order to, get things done. So standard planning systems that work for non-neurodiverse people, neurotypical people, often require evaluating abstract priorities. Neurotypical people might be really good at being able to kind of say, oh, look at this list and say, oh, yeah, that's a top priority. That's a low priority. That's going to take 45 minutes and that's going to take 10 minutes. But neurodiverse people tend to not be good at that. And often without adrenaline surging in a crisis or immediate intrinsic curiosity, the ADHD brain's prefrontal cortex remains chemically under-aroused. Dopamine is chronically low. And this manifests as priority equalization. This is when every incoming task feels equally urgent. And this results in overwhelm when you look at your to-do list, task paralysis, scattered execution, doing something for like 5 minutes and then moving on to the next thing and then coming back again and being a little butterfly flitting around. And then also physical or digital disorganization. So what can you do to improve your planning and organizing? As I mentioned earlier, a personalized approach is needed. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. So become a detective, look for clues, and a scientist. Experiment till you find what works. It drives me crazy when I see people online saying, if you struggle with planning and organizing, you must do this. That is very short-sighted. There is nothing that works for everybody. You have to find what works for you. And when you find what works for you, it will not only improve your planning and organizing, but it has a potential knock-on effect of enhancing your overall performance, freeing up time for the things that you love to do, and potentially improving relationships, because being poorly organized and bad at planning can have a significant impact on relationships, be those workplace relationships or more intimate relationships. So some ideas, remember, these are just ideas. You need to try them and see if they work for you. First is body doubling. Work alongside a partner, either in person or virtually. The passive presence of another person acts as a social anchor that helps you increase your alertness, decreases distractibility, and reduces task avoidance. The having to tell another human being that you got distracted is a great way to prevent yourself from getting distracted. And there are some great apps for this, or you can do it just with a friend or with a coach. Ask your friend, I need to get this piece of work done. Would you keep me accountable for the next 20 minutes or however long? The next idea for improving planning and organization is frictionless task initiation. What do I mean by this? Often we don't start something because it feels overwhelming. But if you can tell yourself, to use the 5-minute rule, that you can commit to only doing the thing for 5 minutes, or it could be 10 minutes, or it could be 20 minutes. The time doesn't matter. Just pick a time, but make it short. I often tell myself, you can do anything for 5 minutes, and then pair it. And then if you pair the initiation of the task, the 5-minute rule, with body doubling, it takes it all to the next level. The third strategy is centralized brain dumps. We have this part of our memory called working memory, which is like a mental chalkboard. And it is amazing, but it has severe capacity limits and it gets wiped quickly and easily. So it's really important that you don't over-rely on it. Write things down on paper. If you're working on something that requires your focus, keep a notepad next to you. And if a distraction pops into your brain, write it down. Don't allow it to distract you, but write it down instead. Write down administrative tasks that need to be done, add them to your list, and keep an external digital inbox or to-do list or a paper notepad to avoid having to try and store them mentally. We often really, put too much demand on our poor old memory. Number 4 is visualizing and externalizing time. The brain hates the abstract. So making time more tangible with visual clues like analog clocks, countdown timers, or time blocking can be really helpful. And most people are really bad at estimating the time needed for a task. So implement a 1.5 times buffer to tasks to prevent yourself from overscheduling. The next strategy is micro chunking and external working memory. A large deliverable is totally overwhelming. So break it down into 3 to 5 immediate actions and write it down on visual boards or a structured checklist or a timeline to reduce the working memory load. And keep things written down somewhere other than in your poor old brain. Next is rhythmic focus intervals. Your brain was not designed to focus on one task for several hours. So use structured focus bursts. You may have heard of the Pomodoro technique. This is working on something for 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute restorative break. This helps you work with your brain instead of against it, and sustains attentional stamina without causing you to become exhausted. Next, sensory and distraction barriers. Minimize attentional drift or distractibility by establishing designated work zones and clearing visual workspace clutter and using sensory tools. When I was writing my book over 10 years ago, I had one chair that I sat in to write the book, and it was in a quiet, uncluttered room. When I sat down, I turned off all distractions, apart from my phone in case there was an emergency, and set a timer for 90 minutes. I kept a notebook next to me so that I could write down any distracting thoughts that popped up so that I wouldn't forget them. And this helped me write the first draft of my 70,000 word book in just 8 weeks. Next, strategic prioritization. Prevent urgency equalization. This is when all of the tasks on your to-do list look equally important. By running tasks through the Eisenhower matrix. This is a 2x2 block that has important and urgent, important but not urgent. What is it? Important but not urgent, and then not urgent and not important. I think that's right. Look it up. It is a really, really useful tool. And in the important and urgent, make sure that you're only committing to 3 tasks a day. Any more than that, it's becoming overwhelming and you're probably not prioritizing well. Next, sensory gating. If, like me, you are distracted by sensory stimulation like noise or smells, try sensory gating, using noise cancelling headphones, listening to music in the background that doesn't distract you, essential oils to block out smells, and maybe using a digital website blocker to protect deep work from auditory and digital distractions. When I work with people one-on-one, I make them turn off any auditory notifications. They're extremely distracting, and it's unreasonable to expect your brain to ignore them. The last strategy, and of course there are many more, these are just some ideas, is interest-based bridging. Did you love reward charts as a kid? If so, pair low stimulation tasks with the intrinsic rewards. For example, you do a hard piece of work and you say to yourself, I will treat myself at the end to a favorite hot drink or watching an episode of my favorite show. And you can also give yourself some dopamine before you even start the task by listening to a favorite song and or dancing for 3 minutes before you start the task that you have been avoiding. All of this helps your system get more dopamine, get more motivated, and push through. So, if you want to improve your planning, organizing, and productivity, it isn't about forcing your brain into a cookie cutter, rigid system. It's about discovering the unique scaffolds that support how you think naturally and how you focus and how you initiate action. So if you're ready to stop fighting your neurochemistry and your unique brain, you want to take my executive function audit, which will help you figure out which parts of your executive function are struggling and then suggest strategies on how you can improve them. Thank you for joining me today in this quick training. I hope it has been useful, and I hope to see you again soon to up-level your brain and your life. Bye-bye for now.